Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. Of course, today I have to talk about a film franchise that I think is nothing more than spectacle. I think digitally it's beautiful, but it's very hollow when it comes to the storytelling because it's mostly just messaging extended. And you've seen this tale told so many different times that it's just, I don't know, hectoring, lecturing, frustrating, and boring. And of course, I'm talking about Avatar. And we come at this today with a new view on the possibility of getting Avatar 4. But some of the real acknowledgments here are maybe we didn't get any money out of it. Let's talk about it. Here we go. Now, before we get started, just a real quick reminder, I'm trying to get to 50K, so please double check you're subscribed. If you're not, hit the subscribe button, please. If this is your first time, your 1,000th time, 200,000th time, I would really appreciate it. It does me a solid favor. It gets this closer and closer every single day. I like seeing the numbers go up. Maybe you do too. Also, hit the bell icon and turn on all notifications so you don't miss anything. And then on top of that, just the thumbs up button. We'll move on. We'll talk about this story. Now, this is coming from Cosmic Book News, but it's coming from everywhere. Because I think originally this is from Variety. This story is not all that new. It's from just a few days ago, and this story in particular is from the 9th. So, 2 days ago. And he's saying, James Cameron is saying here, that Avatar 4 is very likely to happen. How? That's a good question. How? It didn't really make money, and we have to talk about it because it made like just nearly half or just under half or just over half of what the previous film made. The second movie, The Way of Water, made $2.2 billion, and 3 made $1.43 billion. That's bad. You're missing like $1 billion there. Where's the profitability when something costs as much as $400 million? We'll get into it because we'll get into the story, but how? A recent Variety piece about James Cameron's Avatar Fire and Ash claimed that despite grossing over $1.4 billion at the box office, the 2025 sequel had yet to make a profit. Holy cow. For Disney, given its extravagant budget and marketing costs. The film has earned $402 million domestically, whereas the last one, The Way of Water, earned $688 million. Now, that's a substantial difference from the biggest percentage market, which would be North America, where the takeaway from theaters is about 55%. Internationally, it's about 45%. So if you just calculate that if both halves are equal, the international market, they get a little less money from, and the local market, they get a little bit more. So 50% of a film is, well, what the studios are going to get in return. Now, you have to factor in all the costs for something, production costs, marketing costs, everything else. And if the studio's only getting half of that, what does that look like? And this is why it sounds ridiculous when some of us are talking about this film needs to make $1 billion to make profit or to break even. And, those films used to be few and far between. Now they're more and more frequent. In fact, I would say Avengers is going to have to make more money than we've ever seen. And I don't think it's gonna. We're going to get to see a measuring stick for Spider-Man Brand New Day, but I think it's got problems. So can the fourth installment be greenlit on what Cameron has called the worst business case in movie history? I would say probably not. And yet he's saying it's likely. Actually, it turns out it's highly possible. Cameron attended the Saturn Awards on Monday and was asked about Avatar 4. We talked about the Saturn Awards just the other day on the 6 Minute Daily. It was a brief, glimpse at what was going on out there. And although he says it hasn't been confirmed yet, he added that it's very likely a sequel will happen, noting that the audience feedback will be key to unlocking the story for this fourth installment. Well, the feedback wasn't very good. People like me are going to call into question the fact that they can't find anything original to talk about. There's no really new evil bad that they seem to be able to introduce, and it always boils down to the humans bad. So all they got from him in this particular takeaway was that the part about the audience feedback is promising. Maybe he's going to listen this time and change it up, because the criticism of Fire and Ash, according to the article here, was calling it out for being too similar to its predecessor. It was very, very familiar. The Way of Water had exactly the same story beats and climax that, well, felt too familiar, because it was. And this is the problem with James Cameron. I don't think he's a sequel guy. I think he's just kind of stayed away from sequels after Terminator, and that was probably for the best. Disney had initially committed to 2 more Avatar installments slated for 2029 and 2031, but the studio doesn't have any contractual obligation to proceed with them. Now, that's a huge gap. So if Avatar 4 comes to pass in 2029, it would be only 4 years after Fire and Ash, which may not allow enough time for the franchise to breathe and for audiences to rebuild in excitement. And that's another thing. I wasn't excited about this movie. I'm supposed to get excited for these things. And maybe that's one of the reasons why there's a huge fall off in the superhero films. These films are not maybe as profitable as they used to be. They are big budget tentpoles that kind of hold the ends up for Disney. You know, the once per quarter earnings number that you can take to your investors and be proud of. Yeah, that doesn't come around all that often. And yet CBR wrote an article themselves, published again on the 9th, saying that James Cameron finally addresses Avatar's future amid Disney cancellation reports. And those have been going out everywhere. It's not just, places like Cosmic Book News or, G&G or even over on That Park Place. I mean, we've been talking about the potential for cancellation for quite some time. And Avatar Fire and Ash made some big money at the box office, somewhat below what director James Cameron was expecting. This led to rumors that Avatar 4 may not end up happening after all, and Cameron's latest update on the franchise's future is conversely optimistic. Screen Rant, they're citing Screen Rant, basically commenting on the status of the franchise while speaking at the Saturn Awards, saying it's very likely, as we mentioned before from the previous article. And once again, it's important to mention that Screen Rant's also calling out the fact that he's taking the feedback into consideration, that people are maybe tiring of the message. I know people are tired of the messaging, and I don't think there's a business argument for this, as Cameron tried to talk about briefly in some of his statements. In fact, he said it more than once previously. These films are incredibly expensive. They have to make a lot of money, and he's not exactly pumping out the innovations anymore. We don't see, any of the new sophistication that kind of drove what we were seeing with the first Avatar film. And 3D isn't all that it used to be. In fact, I think 3D is oftentimes annoying, even though I recently saw that silly environmental movie, and female-driven environmental movie. Wow, that sounds familiar. Called Hoppers for Disney with Pixar. Pixar really needs to figure their stuff out. But it's weird. It's weird that it's being couched in this way, that Avatar Fire and Ash made less than expected. Well, I expected a decline. I think once that word got out that this was just a rehash or a rework of the previous film, a lot of people bailed. A lot of people weren't so interested. And it debuted in theaters on December 19th, too late in the year, but taking advantage of Christmas break. It is projected to end its box office run with less than $1.5 billion. So, yeah. And while it's a lot of money, it's notably much lower than the hauls brought in by previous films, as we've said before. Regardless, it's still likely to happen. It just may cost less. And if you take a look at overall what the film costs versus what it made, and you calculate in the $200 million in marketing plus the $400 million in production. In fact, it's actually over $400 million, but we'll just round it off. That's $600 million. You start off in that kind of a hole, and you're only getting 50% of the studio haul. You didn't make enough money on this film. and that's a problem. And you can't smoke screen over it. The critical reception aside, there's no financial argument to be made because there's no profitability. Anyway, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments section down below. Are you looking forward to Avatar 4, whatever it's called? Do you think that perhaps this is too much money to spend on one property? Divide that up into 3 different properties and maybe we can have a conversation. In fact, I think that this film and the Doomsday budget, the Avengers Doomsday budget, are going to be similarly viewed at the end of the day because the runs are going to be so disappointing for the amount of money and time that went into it. Like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya. Just not at another Avatar movie. Sorry, Jay.